Hi guys, good evening. How are you guys? Okay, so now that we're done with the writing section, we're going to be starting with the reading today. And we're going to start today, but we'll have the entire week to work on the reading section. And it's okay, Adrian, thank you for letting me. Okay, guys, so let's start with the reading section. The reading section, remember, is the first section that you get in the test. It's over 30, just like the other sections. And well, some students sometimes struggle a little bit with the reading. Usually the main reasons or the main problems students have is either vocabulary. So I do suggest that you guys work on your academic vocabulary, comprehension, which is mostly about just practicing, and time management, which again is just about practice. To be honest, what I would tell you guys is practice a lot and learn a lot of vocabulary, and you'll be good with the reading section. Mostly that. There's not much that I can say or that we can do for the reading section to improve significantly, but we're going to be seeing the essentials. We're going to be seeing mainly the question type section. And obviously we're going to talk a little bit about the format first and some general technical tips. Correct? So let's start by seeing the format of the reading. How does the reading section work? So as you probably guess, the reading section is about reading a text and then answering questions about the text. All of the questions are multiple choice, which means that you get 4, 5, or 6 answer choices, and you need to choose the one that you think is correct. Now, in the reading section, you guys will have 2 sets of questions, 2 passages, 2 articles, 2 texts to read, and each text will contain 10 questions about it. Okay, guys? So 2 passages of 10 questions each, that means that you'll get a total of 20 questions. Now, one very interesting thing is that you guys won't have separate timers per passage. That means that you will have just one timer for the entire reading section. And it's completely up to you how you organize your time. You get 36 minutes for the 2 passages for the 20 questions, which technically would mean that you have 18 minutes per text, 18 minutes per set, right, for 10 questions. But it's up to you whether you want to follow that structure or if you want to ignore it and then run out of time. So I'm going to say it in Spanish as well. You have 2 sets of passages, tienen 2 sets de preguntas, de 10 preguntas cada uno, tienen 36 minutos para todo el reading. No les dan un reloj por separado. Ya depende de ustedes cómo organizan su tiempo, pero lo ideal es no pasarse de los 18 minutos por set. 10 preguntas en 18 minutos. And that way you will have 18 minutes to answer the second set. Okay, guys? And that's about it. That's basically the format of the reading section. Are we good so far? Do you have any questions about the format? We're so good. Okay, guys. Now, some general tips that I can give you. Here in the reading, you will have a lot of options. Van a tener varias opciones. Technically, you can skip questions. Pueden dejar en blanco algunas preguntas y saltarlas, técnicamente. You can jump around. You can go from question 1 to question 3. Pueden saltar alrededor de las preguntas de la 1 a la 3, de la 3 a la 6. You can review your questions and your answers at the end. Pueden volver. You can go back. You can review. So you have a lot of things that you can do. However, my best suggestion is please, first, don't skip any questions. No dejen en blanco ninguna pregunta. If you guys don't know the answer, take a guess. Adivinen. Let's say that you are in question 3 of the first passage and you are taking too long to answer the question. You're taking more than 2 minutes. So if you're already spending 2 minutes in this question and you still don't know the answer, then it's time to move on to the next question. So what you guys are going to do is you're not going to leave it in blank. You're going to choose one. You're going to choose A randomly. And then you will take notes on what question you're guessing. Pueden tomar notas. Entonces van a escribir pregunta 3, párrafo, pasaje 1. And that way, at the end, if you get extra time, you can come back and you can review your answers and you can check if it's correct or maybe if you want to change your answer. If you have extra time at the end of the entire reading section. Okay, guys? But other than that, don't ever skip any questions. It's always better to choose one to guess because that way you will at least have 25% chances of getting it correct. So do not skip any questions, please. Don't leave them in blank. Now, if you're going to guess, let's say that you have 5 minutes for the last 7 questions. So you really don't have a lot of time to be reading and answering correctly. So if you guys have to guess, then always make sure that you are choosing the same option for all of the questions that you're guessing. Si van a adivinar, todas las preguntas pónganle en la misma opción. Let's say option A for all of them, A. That way you'll have more chances of having at least some of them correct. Do not get stuck, don't waste time in one question. Approximately you have 1.5 minutes per question. 1 minuto y medio por pregunta in average. Obviously, there are going to be questions that require more time, require 2 minutes, and there are going to be questions that you can answer in 30 seconds. So it depends on the question, but as an average, you get 1 minute and 30 seconds. And if you're taking more than 2 minutes, then it's time to move on to the next. Okay, guys? So if you're going to review your answers in the entire reading section, not in the beginning, not at the end of one passage. Okay, guys, those are some really important technical issues that we needed to address. Is this okay so far? Do you have any questions at all? All right. So let's get to it now. We're going to be looking at the most important part of looking at the reading, which is the question types that you guys have in the reading section. This is the most useful thing that we can do here in class. We're going to be looking at all of the 10 different question types that you have because you have 10 of them. And we're going to be seeing them with examples. I'm going to tell you the strategies for each type, and we'll be seeing some examples and some practices. Okay, guys? We have 10 different question types in the reading. You have vocabulary, detail, except, inference, function, paraphrase, reference, insert text, and summary. We're going to be seeing all of them throughout this week, and we're going to start today with detailed questions. Okay, guys? Now, in order to work on these questions, we're going to first be working on this reading set, which is officially published by the ETS, by the company that makes the TOEFL test. And we'll basically be using this one here. Okay, so I'm sending you guys a PDF, but I'm also gonna send you a document with the reading, the text, so that you can read at your own pace. Okay, guys. So the first thing that you will get as soon as you enter the reading section, before answering the questions, you will only get the text. So remember that you have how many minutes per set of questions per passage?
80.
18, exactly. Thank you. So yes, you have 18 minutes. Now, first you will have the text. So if you want, you can read the text. Now, obviously, reading the text carefully and going detail by detail throughout the text is not a good idea because you will only waste time. You have 18 minutes to do everything. That means to read the text and then to answer the questions. It's not like you get an extra time for reading the text. So you guys need to really be efficient when managing your time here. Please do not ever read the text entirely and carefully. What you need to do instead is quickly scan the text. You need to scan it very quickly, looking for the main ideas. So the first thing that you're going to do is read the title, of course. So it says The Rise of Teotihuacan. And with that title is going to tell you a little bit of what everything will be about. It's going to give you an idea of what it's about. So what do you think it is about if you're based on the title, The Rise of Teotihuacan? What does it say? What does it tell? Probably the rise is the development, right? The growth. So it's probably going to talk about the development of Teotihuacan. We don't know what Teotihuacan is yet, but you can maybe start guessing that it's like maybe a civilization, a culture. I don't know, something like that. It sounds like something like that. And then what you guys are going to do is always pay more attention to the first and to the last paragraphs of the text, because those tend to be introductions and conclusions, and they contain bigger ideas. But do not pay attention to the details. So what you would do, what I would do personally, is I would start reading. The city of Teotihuacan, okay, that already tells me something. That tells me that it's a city, right? So Teotihuacan is a city. Teotihuacan is a city, right? And then it says, which lay about 50 kilometers northeast. So once you start seeing these details, these numbers, these specifications, then you forget about those, right? You know that it's a city, then they're talking about the location of the city, they're talking about maybe when they initiated, and then you start scanning the words. It says apartment complexes, market, industrial workshops. So they're probably talking about, you know, architecture, commerce, in industry, administration, religion. All right, they're talking about everything. And then they say the expansion and ordering. So the expansion of the city. That is what you do. And then for the next paragraphs, what you guys have to do is only read the first sentences. Read the first sentences of each paragraph, and that's going to tell you usually the main ideas of the paragraph. So for example, it says, how did this tremendous development take place? Why did it happen in the Teotihuacan Valley? Among the main factors are geographic location. All right. So just by reading that, you already know that this paragraph is about the factors that led to the development, to the tremendous development of this place, of this city, right? And they start probably talking about the factors. Then the next paragraph says, this last factor. If it says this last factor, it's referring to something before. So maybe you can read a little bit before, and it says the impact of natural disasters, such as the volcanic eruptions. So this factor is at least circumstantially implicated in the Teotihuacan's rise. So this is probably going to talk about that, about the impact of natural disasters and how it was implicated in the Teotihuacan's rise. Then it says, it seems likely that the Teotihuacan's natural resources, we already know that this is going to be about natural resources, long-distance trading obsidian probably gave the elite residents of Teotihuacan access to a wide variety of exotic goods and a prosperous life. So it's about the life that they had, the variety of goods, because of the trading obsidian. And then it says, and then this is the last paragraph, so you can maybe read a little bit more carefully. But again, it's the same. The picture of Teotihuacan is a classic picture of positive feedback among obsidian mining, working, trade, population growth. It talks about everything, right? Working, trade, population, education, religion, talks about everything. So that is what you guys need to do. Just scan the text, read the first sentences, read a little bit of the intro and conclusion, and that will tell you a lot about the main ideas. And that's all you actually need. Okay, guys? And that should take you about 2 to 3 minutes. If you spend 3 minutes in this part, that means that you still have 15 minutes to answer the 10 questions, which in average means you get 1.5 minutes, which is enough. But if you do it in 2, you'll have a little bit more of time. If you do it in one, even better, okay? But do not skip it completely either. You need to have an idea at least of what it's about. Okay, guys? So that's going to be my best tip. Don't waste time reading everything, all right? That's not going to help because either way you will have to read again. So don't worry about that. You'll have to read in detail when you're answering the questions. So don't waste your time here. Okay, guys? Is that okay so far? Any questions? All right, guys. So based on that, we're going to be working on the first question type now, which is detailed questions. So let's see what they are about. Okay, guys. Detailed questions, as the name says, are going to be asking for specific details, specific information from the text. Now, this information will always be directly stated, directly mentioned in the text. It's never going to be something indirect or implied or something like that. It will always be there. It's just finding the information. Right? Let's see. How do you know that it's a detailed question? Because of the way that it's phrased. If they're asking for what, when, where, how, which, those are detailed questions because they're asking for specific information, right? They're not asking you to summarize anything, to infer anything. They're asking for something specific. So this is an example of a detailed question from the same set about the Tehuacán. So maybe, Franklin, could you please read the question, only the question?
What question? Number 5, right? Okay. Which of the following allowed Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge over its neighbors?
Thank you so much, Franklin. Okay, guys, it's a detailed question. Don't read the options yet, but I want you to try. Tell me what you think, what you would choose as the correct answer, and then I'll give you guys the strategies. I'll tell you how I would do it or how you're supposed to do it. Okay, guys, but let's try first. So tell me what you think the correct answer should be. I'll give you 2 minutes to answer this question. Okay, guys. So what would you say the answer is?
Maybe D.
Right? Maybe B, you said, the presence of a highly favored class.
D.
D, all right, the scarce natural resources, okay. Anybody else?
I would say A.
Okay, vale, A. Anyone else?
I think it's A2.
Yeah, so let's see what's under these questions. So the first thing, as we already did, is to obviously read the question, but not read the options yet. If you guys read the options, since you have already like scanned the text a little bit, then your brain is going to be biased to choose one option, right? You're gonna be like, that sounds familiar. I think that might be the one. And then when you start looking for the answer in the text, your brain will want to confirm what you already thought was the correct answer. So it's better not to read the option first before you need to read the text, right? And that way you will answer the question more intuitively as well. So, which of the following allow Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge over its neighbors? You need to make it easy to understand. What allowed Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge over its neighbors, an advantage over its neighbors, right? That is the question. Now, after you have read and understood the question, the next step is to find the keywords in the question. The keywords will be the most important words from the question, the words that contain the most relevant information they're asking about. So they're asking for what allows Teotihuacan to be competitive, to have an advantage over its neighbors. Usually the nouns are going to be the most important words. Teotihuacan, advantage, neighbors. Those are the keywords. Now, in this case, it's pretty easy because we have a quote, right? It says a competitive edge over its neighbors in quotation marks, which means that this is exactly like that found in the text. So it's going to be pretty easy to search, right? You find it, you have it here. But there are going to be other cases where you guys won't have direct quotes. So you need to search for the keywords in the text, or you need to search for their synonyms because you won't always have the exact same words. You won't always say a competitive edge over its neighbors. Maybe instead of edge, you have the word advantage. Maybe instead of the word neighbors, you have surrounding cities. Instead of the word over, you have upon, right? You can have their synonyms. It's not a problem, but you need to search for the words or the same idea in different words, okay, in the text. So we identify, we locate those keywords in the text. It's here. And then you need to read the sentence that contains the keywords. And I'd say that 95% of the time, the answer is going to be found in the same sentence or maybe one sentence before, one sentence after. You will never, and this is a very common mistake, you'll never have to read the entire text to answer this question. So don't waste your time reading everything, okay? It's not gonna help, it's just gonna get you confused. Don't read everything, just read what you need to read. So you identify the keywords and you start reading around. It says, it seems likely that Teotihuacan's natural resources, along with the city elite's ability to recognize their potential, gave the city a competitive edge over its neighbors. And you already have the answer, right? Because it says, gave the city, which is the same as allowing the city to have, right? ¿Qué permitió que la ciudad tuviera una ventaja? ¿Qué le dio la ventaja a la ciudad? Is exactly the same. So what allowed the city to have a competitive edge? You already have the answer. It was, according to the text, their natural resources and along with the city elite's ability to recognize their potential, right? It was the resources and recognizing their potential. That is what gave the city this advantage over its neighbors, right? So that's it. You find the keywords, you search for the answer. Once that you have found the answer, you need to stop reading. Don't continue reading, because if you continue reading, you're just gonna get confused. If you needed to, maybe you can read again, but you're going to read if you don't find that in the answers, in the answer choices. So now we're going to be checking the answer choices one by one, looking for the one that contains the same information but in different words. Because unfortunately, it's almost never happened that you have an option that says option E, Teotihuacan's natural resources along with the city elites available to recognize. You won't have the exact same words, but you should have the same information as you have found. So what allows the city to have a competitive edge? The resources and recognizing their potential. That is what we're looking for in the answer choices. Now, some of you guys said option D. Option D looks really tempting, and it's a common trap in the TOEFL reading because it contains partially the answer. Parcialmente tiene la respuesta, right? Natural resources. So one would see that and one is like, well, it's D. Don't do that. Check and double check that everything's correct. Because what do they say about their natural resources? They say, first of all, scarce natural resources. Well, do we know that they were scarce? Do they say in the text that they were scarce? They don't say that, right? They actually say that they were rich in obsidian. So we don't know that. We don't have that information. That's incorrect. And then they say, in nearby areas, such as those located in what are now the Guatemalan and Mexican highlands. So were these natural resources located in these areas nearby, in the Guatemalan and Mexican highlands? They weren't, right? Because it says, the valley, like many other places in Mexican and Guatemalan highlands, was rich in obsidian. So this obsidian, these resources, was located in the valley itself. It wasn't in the Mexican and Guatemalan highlands. So this is false. This is incorrect information, and therefore we can eliminate option D. Also, we can eliminate that option because it doesn't contain what we're looking for, right? We're looking for natural resources and recognizing their potential, and that's not what this says. But if we start looking at the other ones, C has nothing to do with what we're looking for. The Olmecs toolmaking, not related. B is also very tempting because it contains partially the answer, right? The elite class. So you're going to see the elite class, and you're going to be like, yeah, they said the elite class is related. But let's double check the information. It says a highly stable elite class. Do we know that they were stable? We don't. Do they say that? They don't. So we can really make any conclusions. Maybe you can draw the conclusion that they were stable, but we don't know for sure because they don't say. And another thing was it really the presence of the elite that gave her the edge? It wasn't the presence of the elite, right? It was the elite's ability to recognize the potential of the resources. So it's not B either. By elimination, we can come to the conclusion that it's A, but you don't necessarily have to do that. Of course not. You can go in order, starting from option A, and that way you would have to be able to answer the question just like that. It says, a well-exploited and readily available commodity. Do you guys know what commodity means? Does anyone know what it is?
I don't know how to explain, but it's a commodity could be, I would rather say what it's like petroleum, gas, or some exchanges in countries. I don't know how to explain it.
Exactly, yes. So petroleum, gas, those are basically things that have value, right? Things that you possess that have value. So it's basically a synonym of resources. So oil, gas, those are resources that a country has. In this case, Teotihuacan had a lot of obsidian, that was the resource. So commodity is just a synonym for resources. It's things that you have, things that you possess, that you own, that come with the land. So when they say a readily available commodity, that means that it was something natural, that they didn't have to produce, that they didn't have to like manufacture or anything. It wasn't a resource that they made, right? It's something that came with the land. It was a natural resource. So it was a readily available resource. It was a readily available commodity, their natural resources they had. So this is basically just a synonym for natural resources. And when they say a well exploited, then they obviously mean that they had the ability to recognize their potential. What does it mean to recognize the potential of something? Exploiting that potential, right? So what gave them the competitive advantage is that they not only had the resources, but they exploited them well. They knew the potential and they exploited that potential. So that is option A, right? The natural resources that were readily available and that were well exploited because they were able to recognize that potential. And that is what gave them that competitive edge, right? According to the text and according to option A. So basically, to sum up the process, you first read the question, you do not read the options, you find the keywords, you search for the keywords or their synonyms in the text. Once you find them, you read around the keywords, you don't read everything until you find the answer. And then you need to come back to the options and search for one that says the same in different words. Careful with the common traps. Very commonly, you're going to have options that sound familiar. If you guys have read and then you start reading these familiar words, then you know how we tend to prefer familiar things, right? So your brain is going to be like, yeah, it's B because I read something like that. But you need to make sure that it is actually answering the question correctly, that it doesn't have false information or information that wasn't really mentioned. And you need to know that you need to make sure that it's related. It's not only true, but related, right? And that it contains what you already have in your mind, option A. So that's basically the process for these detailed questions. Mistakes to avoid: reading everything. Please do not read everything. They're always going to be about specific details found at the specific sentences or phrases. Okay, guys? So don't waste your time. So what do you now think? Do you have any questions about this first exercise we did? Okay. So now you guys are going to practice by doing this other question, which is another detailed question, same process, same set of questions, same passage of the Teotihuacan, same paragraph. So I'll give you guys 2 minutes to answer this question. Let me know what you think the answer is. Okay, guys. So what do you think the answer is?
Well, I think that is D.
Okay, option D. Do you guys agree?
Yes.
Perfect. So yes, of course it is. Really, hold on. So it says, what has research on Obsidian tools found on all sites shown? Keywords, research, Obsidian tools, all sites, right? We search for those Obsidian tools, research, or maybe investigation, all sites. So recent research on Obsidian tools found on all sites has shown that, and they ask, what has this research shown? It has shown that some of the obsidian obtained by the Olmecs originated near Teotihuacan. And then that's the answer, right? The Teotihuacan obsidian must have been recognized as a valuable commodity for many centuries before the Great Sea arose. This is not what the research showed, right? This is like the conclusion based on the research, but that's not exactly what the research showed. So we are not going to consider that information. The research showed that the obsidian obtained by the Olmecs originated near Teotihuacan. We look for one that says the same, and it is definitely option D. Some of the obsidian obtained or used by the Olmecs originated near the area around Teotihuacan. Even though these used and obtained is not the same, right? But I would say that it's the closest one because the other ones have nothing to do. Option A is drawing a conclusion from that we're not about to draw any conclusions. The residents were sophisticated toolmakers, has nothing to do with our answer. The residents traded obsidian with the Olmecs as early as 400 BC. This is like a conclusion that we can make. You know, this is interesting because the research has shown that basically Teotihuacan's obsidian, I'm sorry, no. Yes, Teotihuacan's obsidian was found at Olmec sites, right? So the Olmecs used Teotihuacan's obsidian. So maybe you can infer, you can draw the conclusion that Teotihuacan traded obsidian with the Olmecs, right? Teotihuacan sold this obsidian to the Olmecs. So you can draw that conclusion. But this isn't an inference question. You're not supposed to draw any conclusion. You're just supposed to stick to the information directly mentioned in the text. So that's another big mistake students make. If you have an option that seems to make sense based on the information, don't choose it just because it makes sense or just because it's logical. You need to look for something that's explicitly said in the text. Okay, guys, so careful with that. But yes, in this case, it is option D. Well done. Okay, guys, do you have any questions then about detailed questions? Is everything clear? Everything okay? Okay, guys. So let's move on to a different question topic. The next one that we're going to see is called except type of question, or it's also sometimes known as the not. And it's basically the same as what we just did. It's exactly the same, but in this case, they're going to be asking about information that is not in the passage. So the other one asked you to find information that was directly there. So this is the opposite. You're going to find something that is not in the passage. So you will have 4 options. Among the 4 options, 3 of them are going to be directly mentioned, and 1 of them will not have been mentioned. So you need to choose the one that's not mentioned, okay? So it's kind of like the reverse of the previous one. We're going to see. Let's see how this works. So perhaps Let's see, Jimena, could you please read question number 3, only the question?
Sure. Which of the following is not mentioned in paragraph 2 as a main factor in the development of Teotihuacan?
All right, thank you so much, Jimena. So same as before, I'll give you some time to think about it, to try to come up with an answer, and then we'll see what to do for this specific question. Okay, guys, first of all, how do you know that it's an except or not type of question? Easily, you get the word not in capital letters or the word except, always. So if it has the word not or except in capital letters, it's an except question. They're asking for something that's not mentioned. And it's in capital letters because it's pretty easy to skip that part and to go and think that it's which of the following is mentioned, right? That's why it's in capital letters. So I'll give you guys 2 minutes. Let me know what you think, and then we'll see how to actually do it. Okay, guys, so what do you think the answer would be in this case? That is not mentioned as a main factor in the development of Teotihuacan.
I think that it's A.
Okay, do you guys agree? Okay, let's see. So in this case, it works in the exact same way as before. You know, they're asking for something specific. They're saying, what is not a main factor in the development of Teotihuacan? So obviously, in order to find the one that's not mentioned as a main factor, you need to first find the ones that are mentioned as main factors. So what is not a main factor? You need to first find the main factor. So first, change the interpretation of the question. Second, there are two different types or two different cases in this question. The first one, sometimes they're going to ask about everything. So sometimes they won't specify about what. It'll be like, what is not mentioned in paragraph 2, period, like question mark. If that is the case, then you will have to read everything. Unfortunately, it will take you some more time, but you have to read everything because it says in paragraph 2 in general. But in this case, they're asking for something specific. What is not mentioned in paragraph 2 as a main factor in the development of Teotihuacan? So what you have to do first is work exactly in the same way as we did before. So ask yourself, what are the main factors in the development of Teotihuacan? We need to find at least 3 because we have 3 answer choices that are not the ones. So we look for the main words, the keywords. Factor, development, Teotihuacan. Okay? Always the nouns. Now, this is very interesting and very important. There's something called modifier, which is a type of word that modifies the noun. So remember that I'm telling you the main words, the keywords are usually nouns. In this case, it's exactly like that, right? Factor, development, Teotihuacan. But sometimes these nouns will be accompanied by modifiers that change the image of the noun. So for example, if I tell you guys, imagine a car, you are probably imagining any car, right? But if I say, imagine a red car, that image changes. It's not the same any car than a red car. If I say, imagine an old red sports car, then that image is changing, right? So those adjectives, those modifiers are changing the image of the noun. Be really extremely careful with those modifiers because sometimes they lead you to make mistakes when the questions are not that hard. For example, in this case, we're looking not only for factors in the development of Teotihuacan, but we're looking for the main factors in the development of Teotihuacan. And that changes everything because if you guys are looking for main factors, then you're going to go here. But if you're just looking for factors, you're also going to go here. But there's a difference because in this part, they talk about the main factors. They say among the main factors are, and in this other part, they talk about other secondary factors, which is not the same as main. So you should not read any of these and you should only focus on the first part. So careful with these modifiers. It's not the same saying a main factor than a secondary factor or other factors, right? So we're looking for only the main factors. So we're just going to focus on this part. So how did this tremendous development take place and why did it happen in the Teotihuacan Valley? Those are keywords. Among the main factors of the development or in the development of Teotihuacan are, remember the question that we have asked ourselves, what are the main factors in the development of Teotihuacan? Among the main factors are, and then we have a list. Very convenient. Teotihuacan's geographic location on a natural trade route to the south and east of the Valley of Mexico. Once that you guys have found one factor, one response, you go directly to the options and you start searching for that same idea. So one of the factors is Teotihuacan's geographic location on a natural trade route to the south and east of the Valley of Mexico. You guys need to see if you have one option that says the exact same thing, but perhaps in different words. Do we have that option of geographic location on a natural trade route to the south and east of the Valley of Mexico? Do we have that option in the answer choices?
D.
Letter D. Exactly. Teotihuacan's geographic location is the same as location on a natural trade route. Perfect. They are not specifying where, but it's okay because they don't need to. The important thing is that their location, right? Even if you just have Teotihuacan's location, that's still enough. That's still good enough. The only case in which this wouldn't be the correct answer if it contained false information. Teotihuacan's location on a natural trade route to the west of the Valley of Mexico. If it said that, then that would be obviously not correct, right? But since everything is fine so far, then this option is mentioned as a main factor in the development of Teotihuacan. And if this option is mentioned and we're looking for one that's not, we can eliminate that answer, right? Because they're asking for what is not mentioned. And this is definitely mentioned as a main factor. The main factors are, first of all, geographic location or natural place. So this is mentioned, we eliminate. We continue reading. The obsidian resources in the Teotihuacan Valley itself. Do we have an option that says that? The obsidian resources in the Teotihuacan Valley, do we have an option that says that?
Letter A.
Letter A, exactly. So it's not A either because A is mentioned. And the valley's potential for extensive irrigation. Do we have an option that says the same?
Letter B.
Letter B. Always checking, because many times you have traps. It will look like it says the same, but it doesn't say the same. Perfect. So we have eliminated option A, B, and D, and therefore the only one that can be correct is option C. And we are sure without even reading, because those are the main factors, right? Geographic location, resources, and irrigation. We already have the three. If you guys, let's say that you have still not eliminated all of the answers, you need to continue reading, right? But if you have already eliminated 3 of them, then it's okay. The most important part is to be careful, because if you continue reading and it says the exact role of other factors, such as a long period of volcanic inactivity in the Teotihuacan Valley, you'll get confused. If you're not considering that other factors is not the same as main factors. So even if this is mentioned as a secondary factor, it's still not the correct, it will be the correct choice, right? Because you're looking for something that's not mentioned as a main factor, not as a secondary factor. So careful with those little details. But at the end of the day, I'd say this question is relatively easy. It's the same as before. It's just paying close attention, looking for specific information, eliminating answer choices. In this case, you cannot answer the question directly. You have to first eliminate 3 answer choices until you get 1 left. Okay, guys? And then that's it. These are the except the, or it's called not question line. Is that okay? Do you have any questions about this one now? All right. Okay, guys, perfect. Then we haven't had too much time to see many different question types today. But don't worry about it. It was our introductory class for the reading as well. Tomorrow we'll continue. We'll be looking at other types. If we have time, we'll be able to do at least 3, 4, or even 5. Okay, but don't worry, we'll finish this week. So, no questions really before we go? Okay, guys. Then please don't forget today's daily survey before you go. And I will be seeing you guys tomorrow in class. Stay tuned.
Thanks. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks. See ya.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Yes.